Hello, welcome. We're at PAX 2019. Here we have Tom, the maker and coder of the new game, Death Hall.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no worries. As soon as we walked through the doors, we could see the red and the purples and the characters and thought, this is definitely worth a look at. So can you tell us a bit about the game?
Yeah, absolutely. So Death Hall is a high skill ceiling action platforming game. It's available on iOS, so iPhone and iPads right now. It was released in May this year. And it is a very challenging game. It challenges the player to reach the end of 3 unique stages, a spiky stage, a rocky stage, and a flame cemetery stage, while being chased by a monster. So it takes pure platforming and ramps it up to 11.
Gets a bit stressful?
It does, yeah, very much.
So you do all the graphics and the actual animating and all those and the coding. That's all you?
I did. I worked on the game for about 2.5 years until I met a musician. So up to that point, I had been the only person working on the game. So I did all the graphics, all the sprites. I ended up with about 5,500 sprites, 350 sound effects, something like that.
Jeez, that's a lot.
So lots of animations. And then I met a musician, Gareth Waco, who created, I think it ended up being about 15 soundtracks for the game. Wow. Building the soundscape, fleshing out the oral kind of cinematic design of the game. And every stage, and the boss battle included, the menu scene, the transition scene, the cave scene, all have a unique track. So he worked on that for 6 months. Yeah.
So did you use all that music in the end, or did you still have some left over?
Oh, no, I had to use it all. There wasn't a scrap of music that I didn't use. He's a very talented musician, and we collaborated very closely. He's based in Melbourne, and I'm based in Sydney, and we worked online, through email, through messaging, just talking about what we wanted the game to be in the end, what we wanted for the music, and he did such a good job. There was no music to spare.
So I guess that's kind of the magic of creating games, is that there's no boundaries, is there? It's kind of like, it's all up to you, on your back, your dedication and your creativity and your intelligence to be able to cobble all together these skills and create something unique and fresh and something for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have creative freedom, whether or not financial and publishing agreements come into it, if you have creative freedom, you have the freedom to do whatever you want, to take as much time as you like sometimes, which is what I did. Death Hall took about 3 years to develop in total. So I just really took my time to develop the skills that I already had to make the game I wanted to make, to flesh out the visuals, and to just make all the decisions I wanted to make in developing the game. And I made exactly what I wanted to make, for better or worse. But the reception's been really positive, so it feels good to have worked on something for so long, made so many difficult design decisions in the game that I thought weren't going to work, and getting them to work, because game design's hard. Collaborating is a key part of it. So.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because a lot of people think, I want to get into game design because I love games.
Yeah.
You might like to play games, but making them is a completely different thing. Is that? Yeah.
It's tough. Playing games and loving games and appreciating them is a bit different to making games. It's very, very hard work. Once you learn the skills, as with any process of design, understanding that design is a long process of learning and reacting to people's feedback to what you've done. That's a really good building block to becoming a game designer, getting into the industry, getting past that imposter syndrome speed hump that we all have, that I still have to a degree.
And you're originally from Melbourne, but had to go up to Sydney?
I still feel split. I still feel 50-50. Melbourne's home, but Sydney's home too, because all my mates are there. So.
Would you say Sydney's got a better scene for that kind of thing, or is it a bit of both?
It's a bit of both. Melbourne has government funding, so naturally, you walk around in the indie section here, you see a lot of proudly made in Melbourne, proudly funded in Melbourne, Creative Victoria funding, that sort of thing.
Well, that's cool.
It's fantastic, and they also have the arcade in the city. I think it's in South Melbourne. Where a lot of developers come together to collaborate, to work in office spaces. That sort of building in New South Wales, it's not really at the level that it is in Melbourne, but if government funding comes into the picture, it could really start booming, because there are a lot of hungry developers in Sydney, myself included.
Yeah, okay. And what's next? Have you got anything else on the horizon after this game, or are you just primarily focused on this at the moment, nothing else in the works?
I think this game's done and dusted. I'll implement a couple of bug fixes that people have found, bugs, and I'll tweak a few things like difficulty settings and things like that. But after that, the game's pretty much done. I'll be focusing on my next project, which is more of an animated pitch. Surprise, surprise, it's a arm wrestling game, a multiplayer arm wrestling game. We'll see where it goes. I'm not going to start with a game prototype, but I'll focus on the animation, see if I can pitch that to publishers, but that'll probably take me 1 to 2 years to kind of get the ball rolling, and I'll just pace myself, do it very slowly and surely.
Oh, very good. Well, you sound like a very dedicated game designer or maker. What do you call it? What's your title? What would you call yourself?
I would call myself I still struggle with this question daily. I would call myself a game designer.
Yeah, game design.
Yeah, because that's the main issue to solve when developing a game, and that's what it always comes back to, game design. How the game is perceived and played by other people, that's all a design issue.
Do you have, just quickly, one last question. Do you have any main influences that influence your art style, the game style, the music? I guess he probably would be the one to talk about that, but to cobble all that together, what would you say your main influences were?
I get a lot of comments that the game looks very similar to Super Meat Boy, or looks inspired, but I've actually never played that game, so I can't say Super Meat Boy. I did really enjoy Downwell for a long time when that was released several years ago on mobile and Steam. There is a bit of influence there in the level design and the visuals, so that's the main one. Other than that, it's just Mario, really, just core platforming, because that's where it all started.
The father.
Yeah, the granddaddy of platforming.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Thanks for spending some time, and I really appreciate it. It's good to meet you and talk to some of the independent guys,
Likewise.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and you're here tomorrow as well?
Yep, I'll be here on Sunday too.
Good luck.
Thanks for watching this clip from our Insight Series interview. You can listen to the full interview on our Film Diet podcast, or check out more great content on our YouTube channel.